Hello everyone, I'm here today to do another review for the long list of the Booker Prize, and this one is for Bewilderment by Richard Powers. Now this one doesn't come out until the 21st of September, but I was lucky enough that I was able to get a proof copy from NetGalley, so thank you so much for NetGalley and the publishers for letting me read this a little bit early. I was so excited that the moment they approved my request, I just went and started the book, and I have to talk about it now. As a prelude to this, I was really excited for this book. It was one of the ones I was most excited about in the long list because I love the overstory, and the premise just sounded really good. So this book follows father and a son, and the father is an astrobiologist, so he studies the possibilities of life in other planets. And the son is a 9-10-year-old that is in the spectrum. I think he has Asperger's syndrome, if I'm not mistaken. And he has troubles with socializing with other kids, and also that is worsened by the fact that 2 years prior to the start of this book, the mom of the kid died in a car accident. So the family is still dealing with this loss and this grief, because obviously grief doesn't just go away after a few months. It's still there, even if you are able to function, it is still there. So the father and the son are both dealing with this in different ways, and the kid has a lot of problems in school because of it. And on top of that, so the mom was really into nature, bird watching, and she knew a lot of the plants, and she was a lot into it, and the kid is also very into nature and conservation of nature, and also the struggle to deal with climate change. And in that sense, it reminded me a little bit of Greta Thunberg. I mean, there is a character in the book that it doesn't have the name of Greta Thunberg, but it kind of is Greta Thunberg. But yeah, and that girl does inspire Robin, which is the kid, to go out and protest for what's happening to the planet, and the urgency of this, and why nobody's doing anything about it. So that's also a big part of the book. And so the book follows the relationship between the son and the father, and we see them at the beginning struggling with this loss, and then at some point there is this man that is starting a treatment, like a experimental treatment of some of the symptoms that Robin has, and he's doing that by using AI and kind of creating the mind of the mother, to connect the mother and the child better, and that is supposed to help Robin to deal with the problems he's having at school and the problems he's having with himself, like he's always very angry. So that is also a big part of the book, this experimental treatment. So yeah, we do follow the these little threads everywhere. It's all connected in one. So we have interconnected chapters in which we just see the life of the kid, and the father is told from the father's perspective, but we do have this italics text on what Robin is saying and what he is thinking, and we see him struggle with himself, and the father also struggling with his problems. Also interspersed, there are chapters in which they have this kind of game in which the father makes them go to these imaginary planets, and they imagine different lives in different planets and how it will be based on what the father knows, of course, but based on those sciences. But they just kind of travel in their minds to these other planets and try to figure out how they work. So those are little sections in the book, and then we also have that big element of Robin trying to fight for the climate, against the climate change and the climate crisis, and him getting more into activism. And I like that he is maybe a bit young, he's 9, 10 in the book. So maybe he is a bit young to be that involved and understand that so much, but I like that he was not dumbed down in that sense, because I do remember that when I was maybe not 10 but maybe 12 or 13, I did also want to get involved in these activism movements. So I like the fact that he was not dumbed down just because he was a child, and he was not ridiculed by his father just because he was a child, that he has the right to have political stance and social stance on these topics, especially the climate crisis, because that's something that is going to affect him directly much more than it's going to affect adults. And that's kind of the problem as well, why adults are not doing anything, because they don't see the urgency as much as children do. So yeah, that's another big part of the book. And then of course the treatment, and the treatment does help Robin a lot, but his father is not convinced that this is the best for him, and he doesn't know how to weight his feelings towards that. So yeah, more or less that's kind of what the book is dealing with. I found it really beautiful and really moving. It's not as epic and big and impactful as the Overstory. It's a lot shorter as well. It's a lot more subtle and a lot more quiet, and a lot more gentle than the Overstory, because it does have a lot of more, in my opinion, it does have a lot more emotional connection, because it's only focusing mostly on these two characters, and you see them, how their relationship is and how close they are. So it plays a lot more with those emotions, and it is a lot more quiet in that sense. It's not trying to be epic, it's just trying to be to portray humans, humans that care about things that are also touched upon in the Overstory, and some of them are expanded on. But it's not trying to be this huge statement, let's say, and that's okay. I think that's fine, and I like it for what it is. I think personally I prefer the Overstory, but I think that this one does what it does perfectly well, and I really enjoyed it, and I was very emotionally invested in these characters because they did feel real to me. I also loved all the science talk. I'm a sucker for that kind of thing, especially if it's well done, and it's really well done here. There is a lot of science talk, a lot of obviously the father is an astrobiologist, so he is a scientist and he does talk a lot about science, but also the child, because of his upbringing, but also I think partly because of the way he sees the world with Asperger's syndrome, it's a lot more rational in many ways. I do think that also gives him a very clear scientific way of doing things. There is this one scene in which he was trying to convince a politician of the importance of doing something about climate change, and he was just showing them facts rather than trying to make a pep talk or anything. And that's always how I approach these kind of things as well, because I feel like the facts talk by themselves, and people that really see that and understand that there's no way they cannot do anything about it because it's so clear in the facts. And obviously that's not how it works. Some people need emotional connections to get compelled and to move towards things, but I did appreciate the fact that science was such a strong element in this book, even more than in the Overstory, I would say. I also enjoy the language itself, because it's a beautiful language. It's a very it's just subtle. Again, it's not overpowering. It's not distracting you from the emotions. It just makes the emotions. It enhances all of the topics that we're talking about, and especially when you're talking about these planets that they were imagining. It was so beautiful to read from a beautiful language, a beautiful descriptive language, about these planets and how they will imagine them to be. Because in that case, you kind of need some description, but you don't want it to be too much, and it was just perfect. Like, the writing was just spot on, in my opinion. So yeah, I overall really enjoyed a lot of elements in this book. I think it's just such a introspective, beautiful story about the relationship between these two people that have so much in common, but then they also have a lot to work through, and they have trauma in their past, and how they are able to work together with that trauma, and how they both relate to Ali, the mom, how important she is for both of them in so many different ways, and how she, even though she's not there anymore, how she helps both of them to go forward in their lives and define how they live their lives. The only thing I will say that I did not think it was necessary, there is a small section. So when they are talking about this experiment that Robin is going through to be able to cope with his life better, there is this small section in which the experiment kind of goes viral in the internet, and he gets all this media attention, and his dad struggles a lot with this media attention on his child. And I understand why that was there, like all the media attention and all the viral internet stuff. But I just felt that it distracted from the main, what I felt it was the main core of the book, of these relationships. And of course, those relationships do not exist in a vacuum. But still, like, I felt that was not completely necessary. But that's a very small part of the book. But yeah. That's my only criticism. I also have to say I am not in the spectrum in any way, so I don't know how that representation is. But yeah, overall, I really love this book. It reminded me of also, for myself, the connection that I also have to nature, because for me at least, I mean, I think that this environmental fight is obviously important because it's the only planet we have, and we have to live in it and we have to make it livable. But ultimately, for me, it's just such a beautiful thing to destroy, that it just doesn't make sense. And this book did remind me of that feeling, that we live in a beautiful place, and it's such a complex thing to have, and probably it's kind of unique. I don't know how many other planets out there are with similar environments, but I could imagine that each of them is a little bit different, and having such a unique, complex thing and destroy it, it's just so careless, that it really made me feel sad for that as well, as well as inspire, because I mean, we all have to fight for it if we wanted to keep going, and that this book also reminds us of that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the book. I hope you enjoy. Do I think it's going to be in the shortlist? Absolutely. I think it's one of the main contenders to win the Booker Prize this year. I think it's my favorite so far of all of the ones I've read. So yeah, I hope it really makes it far. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any thoughts on the book. Let me know if you want to read it, or if you have read it, if you also were lucky and got a proof copy like I did. And yeah, until next video, bye.